Admiral Kung Doyun stood at the observation window of Earth's orbital defense platform. The stars looked peaceful tonight. He held a cup of cold coffee in his hand and watched the blue planet below. Sol's lights sparkled like tiny diamonds. Somewhere down there, his daughter was sleeping in her small apartment. He smiled at the thought. Then the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across every screen in the command center. Officers ran to their stations. Kong dropped his coffee and rushed to the main display. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Ships, hundreds of them. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They were massive, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their hulls were dark purple, covered in strange symbols that glowed with sickly green light. What are they? Lieutenant Cho Hannah asked from her communications station. Her fingers moved fast across her controls, trying to establish contact. Unknown, Kong replied. His voice was steady, but his heart was pounding. Try all frequencies. Send a greeting message. Hannah nodded and began broadcasting. Unknown vessels. This is Earth Orbital Command. We come in peace. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. Silence. She tried again. And again. Nothing came back. Then the alien ships began to move toward Earth. They spread out in a wide pattern, surrounding the planet like predators circling wounded prey. Far below, in the city of Busan, Captain Yoon Min-ho was enjoying a rare evening off duty. He sat in a small restaurant near the harbor, eating noodles and watching the news on a tiny screen above the counter. The broadcast suddenly cut to static. Then a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had gray skin stretched tight over a skull that was too long, too narrow. Its eyes were large and completely black, like pools of oil. When it spoke, its thin lips barely moved, but the words came through in perfect Korean. Creatures of this world. We are the Velthiri Empire. Your planet has been selected for harvest. You will surrender all resources and submit to processing. Resistance is not expected. You are primitive. You are weak. You have 72 hours to comply. This is not a negotiation. The screen went black. Myth dropped his chopsticks. Around him, people were frozen in shock. Then someone screamed. Then everyone was screaming, running, crying. Minho pushed through the crowd and ran toward the naval base. He had to get to his ship. In Seoul, Dr. Park Sora watched the same broadcast from her laboratory at the university. She had spent her whole life studying the possibility of alien life. She had dreamed of first contact. She had written papers about how humanity should welcome visitors from the stars, with open arms and open hearts. Now those visitors were here, and they called humans primitive. They spoke of harvest and processing like Earth was nothing but a farm. Her dreams turned to ash in her mouth. The first explosion came without warning. A beam of white light shot down from one of the alien ships. It struck Tokyo. The entire city disappeared in a flash of fire and heat. 20 million people, gone in a single heartbeat. Then another beam hit New York, then London, then Mumbai. Admiral Kong watched from orbit as city after city burned. His hands gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. Tears ran down his face, but he did not make a sound. "Sir," one of his officers said, voice shaking. "What do we do?" Kang wanted to fight. Every part of him wanted to launch every missile, fire every weapon, throw everything they had at these monsters. But he knew it would be useless. Earth's weapons were toys compared to what the Velthiri had. Their defense platforms were paper shields against gods. "Pull back all forces," he ordered. His voice cracked on the words. "Tell everyone to hide. Survive." Wait for what, sir?" Kong did not answer. He did not know. On the alien flagship, Commander Veth watched the destruction with satisfaction. This was the 53rd world he had harvested for the Empire. They were all the same. Weak species living on rich planets, too stupid to know their place in the galaxy. They always surrendered after the first few demonstrations. Always. He turned to his second officer. "Have the council been informed?" Yes, Commander. They send their approval. Standard compliance action recorded. Veth made a sound that might have been a laugh. Good, these creatures will learn. They always do. Back on Earth, the survivors gathered in the darkness. Underground bunkers that had been built for old wars now held millions of frightened people. They huddled together, watching the sky burn through camera feeds, waiting for the end, but in one particular bunker, deep beneath a mountain in Gangwon province, something different was happening. General Baek Jiwoo stood before a room, full of officers from every nation on Earth. Just hours ago they had been rivals, sometimes enemies. Now they sat together, united by grief and rage. The world governments have agreed, Baek said. Her voice was calm and cold. All borders are dissolved. All militaries are now one. We are no longer Korean, American, Russian, or Chinese. We are human, and we will not surrender. An officer from what used to be Germany raised his hand. General, with respect, what can we do? You saw their weapons? We cannot fight that. Baek smiled. It was not a nice smile. You think we were not prepared? You think we never considered that first contact might go badly? She pressed a button on the table. The wall behind her slid open, revealing a massive screen. On it appeared images of ships, weapons, and technologies that none of them had ever seen before. 30 years ago, we found a crashed vessel in the Pacific Ocean. Not Velthury. Something else. We have been studying it ever since. We have been building. We have been waiting. The room was silent. They think we are primitive, Baek continued. They think we are sheep waiting for slaughter. They are wrong. We are wolves. And wolves do not go quietly. Lieutenant Hannah received a transmission from Earth. She read it twice, then walked to Admiral Kong and handed him the message. He read it. His expression changed. The grief and despair melted away, replaced by something hard and sharp. Something dangerous? What does it say, sir? Hannah asked. Tong looked up at the alien fleet surrounding Earth. His eyes were dry now. His hands were steady. It says we fight, he replied. It says we make them regret ever learning our name. Outside, the Velthury ships waited for Earth's surrender. They would wait forever. 3 days passed. The Velthury waited for Earth's surrender. It never came. Commander Veth stood on his bridge, staring at the blue planet below. His officers moved nervously around him. This had never happened before. Every world they had harvested surrendered within hours of the first demonstration. Earth had watched 4 of its greatest cities burn, and still there was silence. Perhaps their communication systems are damaged, his second officer suggested. Perhaps, Veth replied. But something felt wrong. A cold feeling crawled up his spine, a feeling he had not experienced in centuries. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was doubt. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, humanity was changing. Engineer Shin Tai-woo had not slept in 4 days. He stood in a massive underground facility, watching thousands of workers assemble weapons and ships at impossible speed. The technology came from the crashed alien vessel they had found decades ago. It was not Velthury technology. It was something older, something more advanced, and humanity had learned its secrets. How long until the fleet is ready? General Baek asked, walking up beside him. Tai-woo wiped sweat from his face. 48 hours. Maybe less if we push harder. Push harder, he nodded and returned to work. In another part of the facility, Sergeant Im Yuna sat alone in a dark room. Her eyes were red from crying, but no more tears came. Her mother, father, and little brother had been in Tokyo. They were gone now. Nothing left but ashes and memories. A knock came at her door. She did not answer. The door opened anyway. Captain Yoon Minho stepped inside. He had barely escaped Busan before the Velthury landing forces arrived. His ship was damaged, his crew was dead, but he was alive. He hated himself for that. Sergeant Im, he said softly. They need pilots. The best pilots. Your name is at the top of every list. Yuna did not look at him. I cannot feel anything, she whispered. I should be angry. I should want revenge. But I just feel empty. Minho sat down beside her. I know, I feel it too. But empty can be useful. Empty means no fear. Empty means no hesitation. When we fight, we will not shake. We will not hesitate. We will be the coldest, most precise weapons humanity has ever made. Yuna finally looked at him. His eyes were as dead as hers. When do we start? She asked. Now. In the communications center, Lieutenant Cho Hanna and Officer Nam Sun Woo worked side by side. They had been intercepting and decoding Velthari transmissions for days. What they learned made them sick with anger. They have done this to 52 other worlds, Sun Woo said, his voice tight with fury. 52 species. Some were wiped out completely. Others were enslaved, bred like animals for labor. The Galactic Council knows. They all know, and they do nothing. Hannah stared at the data on her screen, because it is normal to them. This is how the galaxy works. The strong take from the weak. No one helps. No one cares. Then we will make them care, Sun Woo replied. We will show them what happens when they attack the wrong species. He pulled up more files. I found something. A weakness. The Velthari ships use a specific type of energy core. It is very powerful, but also very unstable. If we can hit it at the right frequency, the whole ship explodes. Hannah looked at him with new hope in her eyes. Can we build weapons that do this? Engineer Shin says yes. He says, we can build many of them. For the first time in days, Hannah smiled. It was a dark smile, full of promises of violence. On the surface, the Velthari had begun landing troops. They expected to round up survivors for processing. They expected broken, terrified creatures ready to submit. They found empty cities instead. Every human had disappeared. The streets were silent. The buildings were dark. The Velthari soldiers moved through ghost towns, finding nothing but abandoned cars and cold meals left on tables. It was as if the entire species had simply vanished. Where are they? A Velthari officer demanded, his voice echoing through empty Seoul. No one answered. High above, Admiral Kang watched the alien troops spread across Earth's surface. He stood on the dark side of the moon, where humanity's secret fleet waited in silence. 300 ships, each one armed with the weapons Shin Tai-Woo had built, each one crewed by men and women who had nothing left to lose. Sir, an officer reported. All ships are ready. All weapons are charged. The crew is waiting for your order. Kong nodded slowly. He thought of his daughter. He had received word that she was safe, hidden in the deep bunkers with millions of others. He thought of the cities that had burned. He thought of the children who had died in their sleep, never knowing what killed them. The Velthari expect us to fight like their other victims, he said quietly. They expect us to send desperate attacks, to waste our strength on useless gestures, to beg for mercy we will never receive. He turned to face his fleet through the command center's windows. 300 ships. 300 crews. The survivors of a species that had been pushed to the edge of extinction. We will not beg, Kong continued. We will not waste. We will wait until the perfect moment, and then we will strike with everything we have. Not to defend, not to survive. To destroy, to make them fear the name human for the rest of their miserable existence. The officers around him stood straighter. Their fear faded. In its place came something harder. On Earth, Dr. Park Sora stood before the Unified Leadership Council. She had been asked to speak about the possibility of peace, of negotiation, of finding a way. To end this without more death she had prepared. A speech about understanding and compassion, she threw it away. I spent my life believing that we should greet the stars with open hands, she said instead. I was a fool. The galaxy does not reward kindness. It does not value peace. It only respects power. She looked at the faces around her. Generals, presidents, scientists, soldiers, all of them tired. All of them grieving. All of them angry. Cannot negotiate with the Velthari. They do not see us as people. They see us as resources. The only language they understand is force. So we will speak their language. We will speak it louder than anyone has ever spoken it before. The fleet is ready. The weapons are ready. Our people are ready. In 12 hours, we strike. The council voted. It was unanimous. In his bunker, Shin Tai-woo activated the final weapon. He called it the Prometheus Cannon. It could crack a planet in half if used at full power. He hoped they would never need to use it. He feared they would. In her fighter, Yuna ran her hands over the controls. The ship was beautiful, sleek, and deadly. It responded to her touch like an extension of her body. She whispered a promise to her dead family in the communications center. Hannah prepared a message that would be broadcast to every Velthury ship and every member of the Galactic Council. It was simple. Just 3 words: remember our name. The clock counted down. 12 hours became 6. 6 became 3. 3 became 1, and then the wolves came out of the dark. The Velthari never saw it coming. Admiral Kong's fleet emerged from behind the moon like ghosts rising from their graves. 300 human ships, painted black as space itself, engines burning silent and cold. They crossed the distance to Earth in minutes, moving faster than any Velthari vessel could match. Commander Veth was eating his evening meal when the alarms screamed. He dropped his food and ran to the bridge. What he saw on the screens made no sense. "That is impossible," he whispered. "They are primitives." "They have no fleet, Commander," his officer shouted. "They are firing." The first Prometheus blast hit Veth's flagship at the exact center of its hull. The ship's energy core destabilized in a fraction of a second. The most powerful vessel in the Velthari fleet exploded in a ball of blue fire. Commander Veth did not even have time to scream. Across the orbital space, the same scene repeated again and again. Human ships fired their strange new weapons with terrible precision. Each shot found its target. Each target died. In her fighter, Sergeant Imuna led the first attack wave. 50 small ships, fast as lightning, deadly as poison. They dove through the Velthari formation, striking at engines and weapon systems. Yuna did not feel fear. She did not feel excitement. She felt only cold purpose. A Velthari carrier appeared in her sights. It was launching fighters of its own, hundreds of them, trying to swarm the human attack force. "All wings follow me," Yuna said into her communicator. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We take the carrier. Nothing else matters." They dove together. Velthari fighters tried to intercept them, but human pilots were faster, more aggressive. They did not fight the way other species fought. They did not try to survive. They only tried to kill. Yuna's ship punched through the carrier's weakened shields and launched 2 missiles directly into its fighter bay. The explosions ripped through the massive ship from the inside. Secondary explosions followed as fuel lines and ammunition stores caught fire. The carrier broke apart in a chain of beautiful, terrible blasts. "Carrier destroyed," Yuna reported. Moving to next target, she did not celebrate. There was no joy in this, only justice. On Earth's surface, the Velthari occupation forces suddenly found themselves trapped. Human soldiers emerged from everywhere. They came out of subway tunnels, sewer systems, hidden basements, mountain caves. They appeared behind Velthari patrols and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Yoon Min-ho led one of the ground assault teams. His orders were simple: no prisoners. He found a Velthari squad in what used to be downtown Seoul. They were standing over a group of human bodies, soldiers who had died defending an evacuation point. The aliens were laughing, making jokes in their clicking language. Min-ho did not announce himself. He did not give warnings. His team opened fire from 3 directions at once. The Velthari had better armor, better weapons, better everything. But they were not ready. They were not expecting prey that fought back. When it was over, Min-ho stood over the last surviving Velthari. It was wounded, trying to crawl away, making sounds that might have been begging. "Please," it said in broken human language. "Mercy. We give mercy. You give mercy." Min-ho thought of the cities that had burned. He thought of the 20 million people in Tokyo who had died in their sleep. He thought of the Velthari word for humans, livestock, Ellie said. "You did not give mercy," You do not receive mercy. The gunshot echoed through the empty streets. In orbit, Admiral Kong watched the battle unfold on his screens. The Velthari fleet was breaking. Their ships were scattering, trying to escape, trying to call for help. But human ships were faster, and there was no help coming. "Sir," Lieutenant Hannah reported from her station, "I am receiving transmissions from the Galactic Council. They are demanding to know what is happening." "Let them watch," Kong replied. "Let them see what happens when they stand by while innocents burn."
Battle lasted for hours.
By the end, not a single Velthari ship remained in Earth space. Some had escaped into faster-than-light travel, fleeing back toward their home systems. Most had been destroyed. The debris would orbit Earth for centuries. A permanent reminder of the day humanity stopped being prey. But Kang was not satisfied. "Navigation," he ordered. "Plot a course for Velthari space." His officers looked at him with surprise, then understanding, then approval. "Sir," one of them asked, "are we pursuing?" "No," Kong replied. "We are hunting. They came to our home and burned our cities. They killed our children while they slept. They called us livestock." His voice grew colder with every word. "Now, we will go to their homes. We will burn their cities. We will show them what it means to awaken something that should have been left sleeping." On the Galactic Council station, far from Earth, the representatives of 100 species watched the battle footage in shock. They had seen the Velthari conquer dozens of worlds. They had never seen anyone fight back. They had certainly never seen anyone win. "This is impossible," the Corvin ambassador whispered. His people had been conquered by the Velthari 3 centuries ago. They still served as slaves on a dozen worlds. "How did they do this?" "Because they are different," the Methany observer replied. She was old, older than most species remembered. She had seen the rise and fall of many empires. "I warned the council about Earth. I told them the humans were not like the others. I told them these creatures evolved on a death world, where everything tries to kill everything else. They are endurance predators, pack hunters. They do not stop. They do not forgive. They do not forget. What do we do?" The Methany observer turned her ancient eyes to the screen, where human ships were now forming up for a pursuit that would take them across the galaxy. "We hope they find whatever kindness might remain in their hearts," she said. "Because if they do not, if they have become the monsters the Velthari tried to create, then there is nothing in this galaxy that can stop them." Back on Earth, Dr. Park Sora watched the celebration in the bunkers. People were cheering, crying, hugging each other. They had won. Against all odds, against an enemy that had conquered 52 other worlds. Humanity had won. But she did not celebrate. She found General Beak in a quiet corner, reviewing reports from the fleet. The general looked tired, older than she had seemed just days ago. "They are going to pursue," Park said. It was not a question. "Yes," Beak replied. "How far?" Beak looked at her with eyes that had seen too much death. "As far as it takes, until every Velthari soldier who set foot on Earth is dead. Until their empire knows that attacking humanity means extinction. Until the galaxy understands that we are not to be touched." Park nodded slowly. She understood. She did not agree, but she understood. "And after that, when the killing is done, what then?" Beak was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke softly, almost to herself. "I do not know. I hope we will still be human enough to stop. I hope we will remember who we were before this. But right now, today, I cannot think about that. Today I can only think about making sure no one ever does this to us again." Above them, the human fleet burned toward the stars. Behind them, Earth began to heal. Ahead of them, the Velthari Empire waited in ignorance, not yet understanding that the hunters were coming. The galaxy would never be the same. The Velthari homeworld was called Velth Prime. It was a beautiful planet, covered in vast oceans and purple forests. For 10,000 years, the Velthari had ruled from this world. They had conquered hundreds of species. They had never known defeat. They were about to learn, Admiral.
Admiral.
Kong's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velthari system. 200 ships had made the journey. 100 more were still cleaning up resistance in the outer colonies. Every ship was battle-hardened now. Every crew had tasted blood, Sir Lieutenant Hannah reported. We are detecting massive fleet movements around the homeworld. They have pulled back every ship they have. Over 1,000 vessels. Kong studied the tactical display. The Velthari had formed a defensive sphere around their planet. It was an impressive formation designed to protect against any attack from any direction. They are afraid, he said quietly. Good. The human fleet did not attack immediately. They waited at the system's edge, letting the Velthari see them, letting the fear build. Hours passed, then a day, then two. On Velth Prime, panic spread through the population. For the first time in their history, an enemy had come to their home. The Velthari government broadcast messages of confidence, assuring their people that the primitive humans would be destroyed. But no one believed it anymore. Everyone had seen the footage from Earth. Everyone knew what had happened to their invasion fleet. In the Galactic Council chamber, an emergency session was called. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss the situation. The Velthari ambassador demanded immediate military intervention. These humans are a threat to galactic stability. He shouted, "They have already destroyed our fleet at Earth. Now they threaten our homeworld. The Council must act." The chamber was silent. "You're asking us to fight them for you?" the Corvin ambassador said slowly. His people had been enslaved by the Velthari for centuries. He felt no sympathy. After what you did to their world, after you burned their cities and killed millions of their people, you want us to help you? It was a standard compliance action. We have done the same to dozens of worlds. The Council approved. The Methani Observer agreed. And now we see the result. We approved the murder of millions, and now the survivors have come to collect the debt. The Velthari ambassador looked around the chamber desperately. Someone must help us. If they destroy us, who will they target next? This is a threat to everyone. More silence. Then the Corvin ambassador spoke again. Perhaps it is a threat we deserve. At the edge of the Velthari system, Admiral Kong finally gave the order to advance. The human fleet moved forward slowly, deliberately. They wanted the Velthari to see them coming. They wanted them to feel every moment of approaching doom. Officer Nam. Sun Wu had been monitoring Velthari communications throughout the journey. He had heard their generals argue, their politicians panic, their citizens cry. He had learned that the Velthari had done to other species exactly what they had tried to do to Earth. Genocide, slavery, extinction, sir, he said to Kang. I have decoded their historical archives, the things they have done, the species they have wiped out. They are monsters. I know, Kong replied. Some of the Council species are reaching out to us, secretly. They are offering support, intelligence, resources. They want us to succeed. Why? Sun Wu smiled grimly. Because they hate the Velthari even more than we do. Because they have been waiting for someone to stand up to them. And because they are afraid that if they do not support us, we might come for them next. The two fleets met in the space between worlds. 1,000 Velthari ships against 200 human vessels. The odds should have been impossible. But numbers meant nothing against human tactics and human weapons. Sergeant Yuna led the fighter attack once again. Her squadron had grown. Pilots from the colonies, volunteers who had lost everything, young men and women who wanted revenge. They followed her without question. She had become a legend. All wings, she said into her communicator. Target their command ships first. Cut off their heads, and the body dies. The battle began. Human ships did not fight in formations. They fought in packs, small groups that struck and vanished, reappeared and struck again. The Velthari tried to maintain their defensive sphere, but it was like trying to hold water in their hands. The humans slipped through every gap, exploited every weakness. The Prometheus cannons fired again and again. Velthari ships exploded like fireworks. Their commanders gave orders that were ignored or impossible to follow. Chaos spread through their ranks. Captain Minho led a boarding party onto a Velthari battleship. His marines fought through corridor after corridor, clearing every room, taking no prisoners. The Velthari soldiers fought back, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not retreat. Humans kept fighting even when wounded, even when dying. Minho reached the bridge and killed the captain with his own hands. Then he activated the ship's self-destruct and evacuated his team. The battleship exploded minutes later, taking 2 other Velthari ships with it. After 6 hours of fighting, the Velthari defensive fleet was broken. Survivors fled in every direction. Some tried to surrender. The human fleet did not accept surrenders. Not yet. Not until the lesson was complete. Admiral Kang brought his flagship into orbit above Velth Prime. The planet hung below them, beautiful and terrified. Cities covered its surface, home to billions of Velthari. Communications begged for mercy in 100 languages. Lieutenant Hannah opened a channel to the planet. "This is Admiral Kang Do-yoon of the United Terran Authority. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your empire has fallen. You have 1 hour to surrender your government and military leadership unconditionally. If you do not, we will begin orbital bombardment of your cities. You showed Earth no mercy. Pray we are better than you." The message was received. The Velthari government responded within minutes. They accepted all terms. They would surrender everything. But in the council chamber, the fear had only grown. "They won," the Corvin ambassador said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They actually won." "They did more than win," the Metheny observer replied. "They destroyed the most powerful military force in the galaxy in less than a week, with technology we have never seen. Using tactics we cannot counter." She paused. "And now they have learned something terrible." "What?" "That they are the strongest species in the galaxy. That no one can stop them. That they can take whatever they want, just as the Velthari did." The chamber fell silent as the weight of those words settled over them. On his flagship, Admiral Kang stared down at Velth Prime, the planet that had ordered the death of millions of his people. The planet whose leaders had watched Earth burn and laughed. His finger hovered over a button. The Prometheus cannon. At full power, it could crack the planet open, turn it into debris, end the Velthari species forever. "Justice," a voice in his head whispered. "They deserve it, sir," Hannah asked carefully. "Your orders?" Kang closed his eyes. He thought of his daughter. He thought of Earth. He thought of the person he had been before all this started. A man who had looked at the stars with wonder and hope. He removed his hand from the button. "Accept their surrender," he said quietly. "We are not them. We will never be them. Bring their leaders to us for judgment. The killing stops when there is no one left to fight." Hannah nodded, relief visible on her face. "Yes, sir." But as she sent the message, Kang made himself a promise. The killing would stop today, but the galaxy would never forget what happened here. Every species, every world, every being with eyes to see would know that Earth was not to be touched. Never again. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest room in known space. It had been built 5,000 years ago, when the first species learned to travel between stars. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around a central platform, each one belonging to a different world, a different species. A different voice in the great conversation of civilizations today. Every seat was filled. Every eye was fixed on the central doors. The entire galaxy was waiting. The doors opened. General Baek Ji-woo walked in first. She wore a simple black uniform, with no medals, no decorations. Behind her came 12 more humans, each one a veteran of the war. Admiral Kang, Captain Minho, Sergeant Yuna, Officer Sun-woo, Lieutenant Hannah, and others. Chosen to represent the species that had done the impossible. They walked to the center of the room and stopped. They did not bow. They did not smile. They looked around at the assembled representatives with cold, measuring eyes. The silence was crushing. Finally, the council speaker rose from his seat. He was a Metheny, ancient and frail, but his voice carried through the chamber. Humans of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council as representatives of your species. Do you understand the gravity of this moment? We do, General Beak replied. Her voice was steady and clear. Then speak. The galaxy wishes to hear why you have done what you have done. Beak nodded. She looked around the chamber once more, meeting the eyes of species that had watched Earth burn and done nothing. Then she began. 23 days ago, the Velthari Empire attacked our planet without warning. They destroyed 4 of our cities. They killed 37 million of our people. They called us primitive. They called us livestock. They expected us to surrender and submit to processing, like the 52 other worlds they had harvested before us. She paused to let those words sink in. We did not surrender. We fought back. We destroyed their fleet. We pursued them to their homeworld. We broke their empire. And now we are here, standing before you, the same council that approved their attack as a standard compliance action. Movement rippled through the chamber, uncomfortable shifting, avoided eyes. You watched, Beak continued, her voice growing harder. You all watched. You saw our cities burn. You saw our children die, and you did nothing. Because that is how the galaxy works. Yes. The strong take from the weak. The council does not interfere. It is normal. It is acceptable. She took a step forward. It is over. The Velthari ambassador rose from his seat. You cannot dictate to the council. You are one species. You cannot silence. The word cut through the chamber like a blade. The Velthari ambassador sat down, his face pale with shock. The Velthari Empire is finished, Beak said. Your fleets are destroyed. Your colonies are in rebellion. Your government has surrendered unconditionally to Earth. You have no power left. You have no voice here. She turned back to the full council. We came to the stars looking for friends. We came with hope in our hearts and wonder in our eyes. We believed that among all these countless worlds, we would find wisdom, compassion, kinship. Her voice softened for just a moment. We were wrong. Dr. Parksora stepped forward. She had been chosen to present humanity's demands. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was strong. Earth does not seek empire, she said. We do not want to conquer. We do not want to rule. We want to live in peace with our neighbors, whoever they might be. But we have learned that peace in this galaxy must be earned with strength. So this is what we demand. She activated a holographic display that appeared in the center of the chamber. First, full reparations from the Velthari Empire to Earth and to every world they have ever harvested. Every species they enslaved will be freed. Every resource they stole will be returned. Murmurs spread through the chamber, but no one objected. Second, the formation of the Terran Defense Covenant. Any world that wishes protection from predatory species may join. We will defend them as we defended ourselves. No harvest fleets. No compliance actions. No processing of sentient beings. The Corvin ambassador leaned forward, his eyes wide with hope. His people had been slaves for 3 centuries. This was beyond anything they had dared to dream. Third, humanity will take a seat on this council. We will have equal voice in galactic affairs. Our worlds, our people, our interests will be respected. The council speaker nodded slowly. These demands are ... significant. The council must deliberate. No, General B cut him off. There is no deliberation. You watched 37 million humans die and did nothing. You do not get to negotiate with us. You accept these terms, or you find out what happens when we decide the council itself is a threat to our survival. The threat hung in the air like poison. Admiral Kong stepped forward. He had been silent until now, but everyone in the chamber knew his name. The human who had led the fleet that broke the Velthari Empire. The man who had held the power to destroy an entire species and chosen mercy. Let me be clear, he said softly. We did not enjoy what we did. We did not celebrate the deaths of Velthari soldiers. We do not want to become what they were, but we learned something in these past weeks. We learned that hope without strength is just an invitation for predators. We learned that mercy shown to monsters only creates more victims. He looked directly at the council speaker. We are choosing to stop. We are choosing to offer peace. We are choosing to be protectors instead of conquerors. But if you mistake our choice for weakness, any species here decides that humans can be attacked without consequence, we will return. And next time, we will not stop. Next time, we will not show mercy. Next time, we will finish what was started. The chamber was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The council speaker slowly rose to his feet. The council accepts the human terms. All of them. Without modification? A ripple of relief spread through the room. But there was something else beneath it. Something that would take generations to fade, fear, as the human delegation prepared to leave. The Corvin ambassador approached them. He was trembling, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered. "My people have been waiting 300 years for someone to stand up to the Velthari. We did not believe it was possible. You have given us hope." General Beak looked at him with something approaching warmth. "Then join us. Build something better. Help us prove that the galaxy does not have to be cruel." The Corvin nodded, unable to speak. One by one, other ambassadors approached. The oppressed, the conquered, the silenced. They came to thank the humans. They came to offer friendship. They came to ask for protection. By the time the human delegation reached the doors, 17 species had requested membership in the Terran Defense Covenant. Lieutenant Hannah looked back at the chamber one last time. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. "Do you think they have really learned?" Admiral Kang followed her gaze. "Some have. Some will never learn. But that is not our concern. Our concern is making sure that if they forget, we remind them." Sergeant Una spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. Her voice was still flat, still cold, but there was something new in it. Something that might, someday, become peace. "What happens now?" General Beak smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine.
Ow, we go home.
"We rebuild. We mourn our dead. And we make sure that what happened to Earth never happens to anyone else. Not if we can stop it." She turned and walked through the doors. Behind her, the Galactic Council remained seated in silence. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the Methani observer broke the quiet. "We made a terrible mistake," she said. "We taught humans that the universe is cruel." Another representative shook his head. "No, we taught them that they must be crueler. And yet they chose mercy. They chose to protect. They chose to build instead of destroy. For now." The Methani observer looked toward the empty doorway where the humans had stood. "Yes," she agreed softly. "For now, let us hope we never give them reason to choose otherwise." Outside the chamber, the human delegation walked toward their waiting ships. Earth was far away, but it was waiting for them. Wounded but alive. Changed but unbroken. As they boarded, Captain Minho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were rebuilding their world. Children were being born who would never know what it felt like to be called livestock. Families were healing. Cities were rising from the ashes. "We did it," he said quietly. "We actually did it." Admiral Kong stood beside him. "The hard part is not winning the war, Captain. The hard part is winning the peace that comes after. That is where we will truly be tested." Minho nodded. "Then we better pass the test." The ships lifted off and turned toward home. Behind them, the galaxy watched in silence. The hunters had become protectors. The victims had become guardians. The primitives had become the most powerful force in known space, and every species, on every world, made a quiet promise to themselves: never provoke the humans. Never again.